Fantastic. Well, in our comb-over report, many companies now ducking the Donald. Several organizations, they've pulled business and cut ties with Donald Trump. They don't want to be associated with him after he said Mexico basically sending us nothing but it's rapists. Now, not only is Trump standing by those comments, in fact, he's doubled down on them. Here in our area, Woolman Rink in Central Park, still named after Trump. And don't forget about the Donald J. Trump State Park in northern Westchester. The PGA, they've pulled one tournament already from a Trump course, but the LPGA and the Seniors Tour are so far keeping their events at the Donald's courses. So who's going to dump the Trump next year, and should they? Well, let's bring in our panel. Journal News columnist Phil Reisman, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Okay, some are more obvious than not, Phil,
Right.
but give the dilemma here when it gets to parks, for example, which is a little bit harder than pulling a sponsorship or an event.
Yeah.
What's the bind that they're in?
Well, first of all, I just want to show you
Oh.
the Donald Trump talking doll. I don't know if you can see. There it is.
It looks like the $6 Million Man doll.
I
The
mean-
way Donald looks like he's packed on
Now
a few,
this-
and you can't even button his pants if you look carefully here. Yeah.
It's been molested. He used to talk. He doesn't talk anymore. But if he could,
That's the only one
he
of the Trumps
could,
who does, yeah.
if he could, we would be in big trouble because he probably wouldn't apologize for all the things he said. But
This is the greatest doll in the history of the world.
it's also made in China, by the way.
Not surprising.
Yeah, so like all his stuff. Well, you know, I think a lot of it, Richard, has to do with, selling the name. I mean, when they have Trump Towers, for
Yep.
example, he's not running those places. That's a management company. He sold his name. So the future of the Trump brand is he going to be able to sell it for all the junk that he puts out, like that thing I just showed you. And you mentioned the parks. Well, some of those like Trump golf links in the Bronx. Bill de Blasio, the mayor, has already made a comment that what he said about Mexican immigrants was disgusting. There might be some contracts with the city that Trump could lose, and I would look forward to seeing that because I think that probably will happen, knowing Bill de Blasio. And there'll be other things too, but
Before we get into the politics of this, Dominic, at the end of the day, I think Phil's 100% right. It's a brand that he's selling, all right? You talk to anybody in the real estate game in New York City here, and they'll tell you that he has reneged on so many deals with so many developers and so many labor groups or whatever that have put up the buildings, et cetera. There's so many contingencies if they're going to ever do business with him again. And there's legitimate questions is, when you see Trump, it's basically the gold letters and whatever faux gold there is in the building, but that's all that he's got in terms of stick in the game. Is he making an internal calculation here to say, time out, this thing's probably not going to result in me being president? Could I have some impact? He's lost basically The Apprentice, and he's lost, he's burnt bridges with the Univisions and the rest. He's always about the next play for him. Is he going to look back on this and say, I may not be able to go into certain doors that I did before?
Well, I don't have any private information as it relates to Mr. Trump. You mentioned the brand. I know that I'm the minority at this table in terms of the opinion.
Oh, the opinion, okay,
But,
yeah.
but it is a very successful brand. And that's why many companies have done business with him. And it has paid dividends, lovely, if you will, in doing business with him. You mentioned the city of New York. That golf course, right, not far from where I grew up, is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he was basically just a front man. The city put up most of the money.
just like his school.
Right, and so
How to become a millionaire like me.
now that one's a big problem.
Right.
But Richard,
There's a lot of other problems.
Yeah.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
but the
Let's
city
go
of
to
New
Atlantic
York,
City, yeah.
Mr. Trump's lawyers have gone on record as saying, and it seems like the city has backed off, that there's absolutely nothing they can do. It's called the First Amendment. He had a clause put in the contract that his First Amendment rights were protected. So we're looking at places like California, some assembly members saying don't do business with Trump. I don't know what the next step is. I really don't. But I'll bet you this, even if it's not the presidency, it's going to be something very, very successful.
He has a First Amendment right to say whatever he wants. I don't think he has a First Amendment right to have his name on stuff. I mean, the private property, he can put his name on whatever he wants as long as he owns it or has the deal. But when it comes to the park or when it comes to Woolman Rink, that's not a First Amendment thing. That may be contractual, but contracts can certainly be rescinded. You asked about his brand, and to me, his brand for a long time has stood for faux class. It's class for people who need a T-shirt that says "classy." You know, it has the allure of or the smell of being classy, but it's really not. It's for people who need something that screams class. I mean, I don't know. I haven't played his golf courses, but you know, there are buildings. There's a couple. There's one in New Rochelle. There's one in White Plains, and it doesn't seem that much nicer than another building, but it's got class because it's got Trump's name on it. And I think that there's a group of people who I think are the low information voters in this campaign who like Trump, and you're saying the boost in his numbers. It's not going to affect his sales pitch to them, but I think to a lot of other people, it's not going to stand for class the way it did.
Don saw this, but I'm curious if you did. I didn't see coming that his 15 minutes resulted in him, by a reputable national poll, and I know this is the 15 minutes, believe me, I get it, but still, he's ahead in the polls. And the party's already told him to stand down. He's basically given him the middle finger. He's going to meet with Sheriff Arpaio. Remember that lunatic in Arizona? So he's doubling down with the whole message that now there's 30 million illegals when everyone else is using the number 11 and they're all criminals. You know, does this have any staying power?
Well, I mean, the fact that we're talking about him here tells us that even by saying outrageous things in the name of I'm just telling the truth and saying it outrageously like that, he's kind of won. It's part of the battle. Who's talking about Bobby Jindal?
Well, there are worse things. I mean, that might be the most positive thing to come out of a Trump candidacy, is that we're not talking about Jindal.
I'm just saying, you know, he's out there. And as Richard just said, he's in the polls. He's in the first cut.
But you know, he's doubling down on the birther argument again. They gave him a chance to go back on that one. He's standing by that.
Richard, do you think he might be crazy?
I don't know if he's crazy as a fox, but I believe. I mean, put it this way: everybody who says, "Oh, he's playing this," nobody did that announcement the way he did it. They actually, people close said he had a script.
Right.
30 seconds into it, he threw the script out and rambled on. Right. And the only thing you seemed to have planned was they bring up the music, then he goes like that 2 seconds later, take it down so they can hear him talk again. I don't give him credit for being crazy as a fox here, Dom. It's just
he's not crazy.
He's eccentric.
The Trump I know is extremely. I know you guys don't want to hear this. Extremely smart, very calculated. Nothing is by coincidence. But we've had private. I wasn't going to say it. We've had private conversations where he was able to cite to me his exact polling based down by this is a couple of years ago, based by demographics for support of his casinos. Now, what person do you know can give you that type of information?
Well, I can also say the same person who went belly up in Atlantic City with all the casinos. The only thing he did smart over there was he threw the keys at the banks and says, fine, you take it over, and then got better terms on it. But you can do chapter and verse, where my problem with him is he can do all the talk he wants, but the people he's screwed over the most with his shady businesses are the people who can afford it the least. And for him to pretend that he's some populist man of the people here, that's what gets me. It's those people, those school teachers who bought that commercial, who brought those apartments in Mexico and Baja because they were running out of time, and if you didn't do it, and not one of them even got built here. It's the kids who went to Trump College or to get the whole thing. The whole thing was a complete sham. I can keep going chapter and verse, but to me, that's the phony part of this all business here, is that this guy is selling, you know, he's a slick oil salesman, he's a con guy, and he's conning people into thinking here that the only thing coming from Mexico are rapists pouring over the border. And now we got to deal with this. And Republicans are the biggest losers out of this, because now that's part of their narrative. Is he their party or isn't he?
But Richard, what about San Francisco? Exactly what, I'm not going to call any group of people a bad word because I don't approve of that. But he's given ammunition. What happened in San Francisco? The woman
it was a tragic story, and we can certainly and should look at this whole sanctuary city idea. I think it's a legitimate debate that we ought to have in this country. But to conflate that with him tripling the number that anyone else is using as to who the illegal immigrants are, forgetting every piece of fact as to who actually comes over the border and what they do when they get here, and not even having the honesty to admit he's got illegals working for him right now at his properties, to me, he has no, forget about credibility, he has no decency when he does this stuff, and he preys on the least informed electorate.
This is the byproduct of a Republican Party that has ceded its operations to Fox News and talk radio. He talks like a Fox host or like a talk radio host. He gives you the basic headlines and then obfuscates all the details so that you can't really fact check on him. And then when a story like San Francisco pops up, it appears to add credence to the argument that he's making, when really he's not making any argument. If he's a problem for Republicans, they've got it coming for not reining in that.
So here's
that
my
aspect
question,
of what
guys,
they've
before we
done.
go to break, and I'll start with you, Phil. Over under. Here we are, July 10th, I guess it is. Is Trump on that stage for the Republican debate, which is less than a month? I think the answer is probably yes. And where is he polling a month from now? Is he still one? Is Jeb Bush and others still looking up at him, or is he down near the bottom, almost in double digits?
I say he's in the debate, and his polls numbers go down.
He's definitely in the debate, no doubt about that. He's the clear front runner on the Republican side
In a month.
after the debate. In a
Wow.
month.
He's in the debate, but by the time we get to Iowa and New Hampshire, he's pulled out and he's going to run as a third party, or at least threaten to.
And still have to give his financial information. So we ever see it?
I don't know.
I'd be fascinated by that one. Okay, coming up next, everybody, we're going to take a look at Indian Point's nuclear power plant and how New York is cracking down on it and just, in fact, won a court ruling against it. Phil will tell us what that really means. Then ESPN leaked that Giants defensive lineman Jason Pierre-Paul, they put out their private records, and those records show he had his finger amputated. Now, fingers being pointed at ESPN.